Welcome
to the Bring Me to Life podcast.
It's time to wake up
and shine on.
Welcome everyone to this roundtable discussion on inspiration in isolation. During times of isolation, social distancing, I know that it can be hard to get motivated or inspired. I've been dealing it with myself here these last few moments, these last few weeks. So this is going to be the topic of the discussion that we're going to have with our speakers today. The goal is to help others and to help each one of us really to find ways to be inspired during these kind of times. Each one of our speakers today may have a unique point of view, so just try and keep an open mind and an open heart. Really listen to what each person is saying, and if something hits home and it resonates with you, then that's a treasure that you get to keep. My name is Suleiman. I'll be hosting today's roundtable. We have a great panel of speakers today. We'll go around and everyone introduce yourself and maybe talk about something that you're working through in times like this. We'll go ahead and start with Breezy.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Breezy, known as Breezy Spread Love on the internet. This topic is really important to me because in isolation, I've sat in meditation a lot before, so sitting alone is nothing new to me. However, when the whole world is doing it and there's a lot of suffering going on for various different reasons, it makes sitting in meditation a little bit different and gives it a little bit more power. So in isolation, currently, I'm finding inspiration through meditation, and I'm excited to share a little bit more about that. Thank you for inviting me on today. I really am inspired by the people who are on this roundtable, and I'm really excited to talk more about this topic with them today. So thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for being here. Shannon.
Hi guys, Shannon Shine here, sometimes called Shantastic Shine on the internet. I'm super excited to be here because I think this topic is really important for so many people. For me, I know it's been important because I'm usually pretty active and creative, and I've been going through a shift of a lot of different emotions. One of the biggest things I've been working on is trying to figure out where the best place to focus my time is, because I'm a little bit of the opposite of lack of inspiration. I have a little bit of too much going on, and trying to aim the focus in the most beneficial way has been what I'm working on, and I'm really excited to discuss how I've been doing so.
Awesome. Glad to have you here, and I know you have some questions as well, and we'll have room for anybody to ask a question. So let's go ahead and throw it over to Ashton.
Hello. Yeah, my name is Ashton. I make music under the name Spaceship Earth and also Clouds. For me, it's definitely interesting being a musician through this because I have like an outlet to kind of like channel any sort of over emotion I have into music, but I also like really miss playing live shows and really miss interacting at events. So kind of like Breezy said, I've been focusing more on meditation and just ways to process through all of this and find a balance between like having free time to relax and staying productive to inspire people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know we had on the last roundtable, we talked about communities. There's so many communities out there dealing with this, and we don't know what they're going through. And so a lot of live performers, their whole life is changed. So glad to have you and your perspective here on the roundtable today.
Glad to be here.
Okay, Nick.
Hello, everyone here on the panel and our audience. It's truly a pleasure to be here today. My name is Nick. Thank you for having me. I teach yoga, meditation, personal training, and nutrition as well. And the inspiration isolation really hits home for me. So I'm really excited to be here today. Thank you for having me, and let's see what we can't cook up together.
Appreciate all of you here today, everyone listening. Thanks for being here in this moment with us. I ask for the speakers that during this discussion, you respect each other's opinions and each other's time. I'd like to keep answers to around 5 minutes if possible, and I'll ask each person, a specific question throughout the discussion. But after someone is finished answering, I'll leave room for others to comment or to ask questions themselves. Also, I know Shannon has specific things she'll ask intermittently throughout the discussion. So if it all works out, we may have a special guest call in or send in questions. Anybody else who is listening live or even on demand, feel free to leave a comment or any questions in the chat. And, if anybody does them while we're live, maybe we'll answer some of them at the end. Okay. Any speakers have comments or questions so far?
Nope.
Cool.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's just dive right in then. This one will be for Breezy. I know you have a video blog on YouTube that you have been pretty active with during this time of quarantine. So what's been inspiring you to continue to create and upload onto your channel?
Well, truthfully, my YouTube channel, youtube.com/pearlsangel, has always been a place for me to express myself and to share my true authentic self with the world and to live by example, share the struggles of being human, striving to be the best person that you can possibly be. And with the current quarantine going on, and truthfully, at the advent of 2020, I had made a promise to myself to upload once a week, to upload more often. So that was like my New Year's resolution, right? Who knew that 2020 was going to be so exciting or so much like a roller coaster ride? Something that we don't expect, every twist and turn that it takes. So it kind of also inspired me to share more of my true authentic self. I've never really shared the fact that I'm a prepper with YouTube. I've always watched prepper YouTube videos, but I recently released a video about my go bag, what's in that bag and, where I keep it. And there are other things that I share, such as like immune booster tips that I might have not shared in the past, but it seems like it's important to share that information now. So I think that one of the reasons I'm releasing more material is to be more authentic and commit to the goal that I made to myself, but also to truly share my creative lifestyle in the hopes to inspire others, to show others a new way of living, a different way of living, and then also to reach a new audience, since a lot of people are at home kind of browsing the internet. And my YouTube motto is stay healthy, stay light, and don't give up the fight. And I believe that this is a very positive message, especially here in America with the current political climate that we have. It's important to be one of those loud voices, screaming a powerful, positive message. And if I can be that loud voice through my YouTube channel, then I'm going to give it my all. And since I am home from work and for who knows how long, I might as well use this time wisely and use it for the betterment of not only myself, but the larger human goal to make the world a better place.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Do you think because you know that more people are home and need this kind of message, it inspires you to do more on your videos?
I do think that it is because I know people are home, that people might have a lot more time than they know what to do with right now, and they might not know how to fill it. So I'm working on like a hula hooping video, or I recently released a My Quarantine Salon video, a fun video about giving yourself self-care. Even though we might not be, like some of us might be used to going to nail salons or hair salons, spa days. Some of us might not.
Do you know if
being able to, what?
I was going to ask, do you know if you've received more feedback or interaction with your content since the home isolation has been started for many people?
Yes, I have, especially on like my dreadlock maintenance videos. I definitely have received a lot more interaction. People are reaching out. People are saying thank you. Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. Do we have any other comments or questions from any of the speakers?
I just noticed very briefly that Breezy was talking about self-promises and resolutions and expectations, and I feel something briefly to take from that is in these times we're thinking more on our feet and learning how to improvise with these things that are close to home. So I just think these are some really great topics we're talking about.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Definitely.
Okay. You can say something?
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, you have more time to share stuff. All right. Unless Shannon has something,
I think I'm good.
then we'll go over to Ashton. You've been creating a lot of music for most of your post-high school days. And so what challenges have you faced during this kind of pandemic, and maybe how has it affected your creative process?
Well, it's definitely been an interesting journey. Not everyone listening will know, but I just moved to Colorado just about a year ago from Michigan. And prior to moving, I hadn't really had like any sort of formal job with like a normal boss. I mean, when I lived with you guys, we had our shop, but it's different. And it had been really years since I had so little time to create. So ever since I moved here, I've actually found myself like struggling to have enough energy and struggling to juggle having like a full-time job to pay rent here because it's more expensive. But now that the quarantine is here, I have so much more time. But it honestly took me like a week or two to even open my music production program at all. Just processing through all the emotions. And for me, I'm like really involved in the political movement and like really inspired by all of it. So I've been like keeping a close eye as well as giving myself time to process, which I think is really important too, because it's easy to force ourselves to be productive. But I was glad I gave myself like a week or two because I hadn't had a week or two to rest in like a year. I think Thanksgiving was like the last time I had a real break when I played with Papadozio in Detroit. So I think that's also important to bring up is find the balance. And like, I mean, for me, my music's all about like the collective and like awakening and bringing awareness to important subjects. But also we have to find the time. I even feel like Mother Nature is giving us this time so we can go more inward and take the loose ends of our health regimen and like tie those loose ends up. For me, that's like, you know, it's like less going out and buying food, more cooking food, more like disciplined meditation, and like balancing it with like trying to get sun at least. You know, a lot of people are shut down completely, but, you know, stepping out on your porch and, you know, like doing a little yoga practice can be a good way to get enough exercise. So for me, it's been interesting. But I guess like the heart of what fuels me to like make a bunch of content and music for people during this time is really the like crisis of humanity itself, like the virus as well. But like, you know, it's like, why is our society's so fragile that like in 1 month our economy can collapse and all of that. That's
Right?
like, it's maybe not directly in my music message, but like that's like an underlying theme. And like, so for me to make music during this time is like, I have all the extra motivation in the world. I'm like, my community needs me. Like I need to be consistent and like stepping it up even. And I mean, it's not exactly like, rainbows and glitters every day. But it's like, I feel this drive in myself to create for everyone at the same time.
Yeah, I really, I think we should touch a little bit more on the difference between being productive and being inspired, because like you said, you can force yourself to be productive, especially during times when you are healing. But if you're forcing yourself to do something that doesn't feel that good, and you are distracting yourself from maybe things you need to process or acknowledge or heal, then it might be not the most beneficial thing. So how was your process of just letting yourself grieve before taking action and getting productive again?
I think the first few days I watched like a few like apocalypse movies. The first thing that I did to kind of like tune into my own imagination of like, how can I find like maybe like a little chunk of gold from one of the characters of like, I don't know, a few of the movies I watch, it's like you come out of it with like a sense of hope, like there was moments where, someone came together with someone else, or a lot of awareness was raised on subjects that were like previously hidden. And I think that a lot of that's happening right now too. But I think it all comes down to like listening to your body. Really, meditation really helps me like tune into like what my body feels and needs. And since like I'm not on the clock as much, like I find myself like meditating in the middle of the day as like a third time, or just giving myself time and space, really. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Does anybody else have any comments or questions right now?
Specifically on that topic?
On any topic right now so far.
Well, on the production versus inspiration thing, I'd like to say that I've found that it's easier right now to focus on more creative projects than like producing products. Like as an artist, I do a lot of production work. So like I'll sit there and I'll make a whole bunch of jump rings for necklaces, or I'll do like a whole bunch of the same thing over and over on a typical or in the old normal. And now I find myself having more time to experiment with ideas and to paint for painting's sake, or to just try something new that I haven't done before. There's not this race to get inventory because there's not stores and stuff. Like everything's got to go online now. So it's been more of an inspiring experience to do things more for the time, the journey of it, really. So.
I love that. I think that's super important because, like with everything shut down, there's a lot of people who are out of jobs that they don't even really like. And I think this in-between time is great to like tune into what does inspire us. Like, it's like I don't struggle really to force myself to make music because I enjoy it so much, and I discovered that a while ago. So like for everyone else, like what is that thing that like is so effortless for you to create that you could maybe turn into a career or a passion or like an internet business that's like revolved around your inspiration.
Yeah, I love that. So I have one more question. This will be for everybody, and then we'll get into some more health and stuff like that. I know for me, getting inspired takes a little bit of effort, and to get focused takes a little bit of effort on my part. And in this new kind of world that's being formed in front of our eyes. It's almost like some of the things that I've done or do or working on, or kind of like I'm not motivated at all to do them. But one thing has been this novel that I've been working on super slowly. It's been over a year since I started the draft for it, and it's not even done yet. And I found myself recently now being like, dude, this is the perfect time to finish a novel. I've been hearing about all these authors finishing novels, or like Da Vinci finishing these great pieces of art during times of quarantine. And I'm like, man, I gotta fucking do something with this novel. And
follow the joy.
Follow your joy, yeah. But like I said, it does take me effort to get focused and to get inspired. So one thing that really helps me, and I'll go around and ask everybody what helps them, is to start things off very slowly. Sometimes, like I'd get into the story. Like a few days ago, I just started writing. Didn't tell myself how much I needed to write. Just told myself, write a little bit in it. And I ended up writing like 5 or 6 pages, and it was great. But today I only wrote a paragraph, but still just being able to get it out, even writing one paragraph felt really good. So my advice to everybody is, during this time, if you want to get inspired to something that really, pulls to you, is maybe start slowly. If it seems like too much for you, like it's daunting, or you don't feel like you're ready for it, maybe start slowly. Like if you're going to make a piece of art, start with a little sketch on a piece of paper, a little doodle or whatever. So that would be my advice. Let's go ahead and go around, and I'll start with Nick because you haven't gone yet. What would you say to people if they're, if they want to do something and they feel like it's time to do it, but they still have to make a little jump?
Yeah, thank you for that question. That can definitely go many different ways. I just want to say, firstly, that I resonate with you about not always being inspired or motivated, and sometimes we need to change what we're doing or change how we think to move toward our goals. And whichever goals that we're having, even if they are very large and daunting, or even if they're not very lucid or defined, there's this thing I read about. It's just basically called chunking down. And also we talked about what you were saying in last week's roundtable when Shannon was discussing about reading before bed, and she mentioned her goal is to read one paragraph, and sometimes that turns into multiple pages, just like how you were saying, CeeLo, that you were just planning on writing a little, and you ended up writing a few pages. And so this brings in the whole notion of consistency, and whether we do a little bit or a lot, we're still doing it. And doing it and the thing that we're trying to grow or focus on, doing it a little bit is certainly more appropriate and helpful to growth than not doing it all or skipping it. So for me, lately I've been focusing on some basics, but then also noticing how I feel too, because recently and for a little bit now, I wouldn't do things because I didn't feel like it. And now I'm simply kind of doing a little experiment with myself, and also just having a deeper relationship with myself where I want to do certain things, but I'll go into it and not be so hard on myself in terms of what I produce inside of it. So normally I'd only want to do it if I'm feeling so good, whatever it is, feeling so good and energized and motivated, and I'll go and I'll do a bunch of whatever it is. And I wouldn't go that avenue if I wasn't feeling so good. Now, whether I'm feeling good or not so good, I'll simply hop into it and be consistent, but here's the key here, being mindful and present with everything about myself. Like, let's say if my mind isn't so focused I'll meditate for a few minutes before, or I won't assume that I'll be at it for too long, and maybe I just commit 5, 10, 15 minutes to whichever the task. And the mindful approach and the very patient self-communication really steers me in the right direction.
Awesome. I love that. Breezy, do you have any thoughts on this?
The meditation aspect of it, the going within yourself, is really key to like discovering truly what brings you happiness and joy too, in terms of finding something to do during a quarantine period. And I wanted to touch back on, Sila, what you were saying about reading a book or writing a book, and that there actually has been a big call, like spiritually, a push spiritually for a lot of people to start expressing themselves through writing or through giving lecture. I do angel card readings through Patreon, and that was a big message for the month of April, was to, if you feel called to write a book or to use this time to produce something that you've been waiting to, you have that go ahead. There is that energy there that is ready to give you that push, give you that traction to get started. And tuning in using meditation is a very key aspect of using and utilizing that energy.
I love meditation, and I'm really grateful that you talked about it, so thank you. Ashton, do you have any more thoughts on this topic of people needing a little extra, juice?
Yeah. I think inspiration is an interesting topic because I think a lot of people try to like force their way through it. But I've really found doing something that you genuinely love, or something like exactly like meditation, will actually give your mind the space to like, I'm going to say like download the ideas that are actually going to lead you onto like the path or whatever. I've just found so many times like I'm like being underproductive or something, and then I go to meditate, and then like all of the ideas that I've been like seeking just to like flood into my mind, or especially when I'm like taking a shower or something. And I think that's because like we're like turning off all other stimuli, and really like our spirit is allowed to, or it's like our spirit has much more of like the bandwidth of our consciousness like for itself to talk to. So I like getting quiet and seeking inspiration, which can be like something fun, or like music or art or something, you know. I think seeking actual inspiration rather than waiting for it to come to you can be a way to trigger that motivation.
I love it.
So are you looking at me because you want me on my?
Yeah. Well, I had a question for you that went with this, but you motioned at me, so I thought I meant you wanted to go.
Oh, I was just looking at you. Okay, so my tidbit of inspiration. So at first, when this all started going down, I got really down. For somebody who's really creative and always busy, it was really hard at first because it was overwhelming to think of how many people were struggling to do what they wanted to do. And being somebody who does soul work with people and kind of taps into timelines, I could just feel how many people were just stretching themselves thin. And something that I found important for myself, being somebody who's processed a lot of grief, was the world is kind of grieving. So if you're not feeling inspired, you're possibly grieving your old normal, and you're trying to rebuild what your normal is. So the best thing you could do is create a routine. And a routine with all of the things that you guys just mentioned, I think is great. Waking up, doing some form of meditation, asking yourself what would bring you joy, those kind of things. There for the first week or two when we needed a lot of just kind of cheering up, me and my friend were doing morning dance parties on Snapchat. We would wake up and pick a song. We would both play it on our or whatever, and we would just have a dance party to it to try to bring some joy into our morning. And it turned into just kind of checking in with other people and seeing what they're doing. That's kind of inspiring. But I also work with the emotional body of like the chakra system. So when I'm not inspired, I try to ask myself what part of my energy isn't necessarily like excited about life. And I know through a lot of this, it was the fear of what's next. Like so many people kept asking, like, when is this going to be over? When's the normal coming back? And I'm sorry to say that I don't think that what we thought was normal is coming back, because we're creating a new world. And with this routine, you can create a new normal for yourself. And like I said, checking in with the chakra system, with the fear, I asked myself, what would make me less afraid so that I can be inspired? So then I was inspired to start something new. I was afraid of, would we have enough food if this kept going for months? Would we be able to protect ourselves if things started going crazy? Like, those were things that were keeping me from doing my normal inspirational work. So I took that energy and I fixed that energy center, and I started working on, I had the inspiration to start gardening and planting my own food. So that wasn't something that was weighing on me. And it was still a very creative process to go through planning it and put my energy in a more positive direction than sitting there and just kind of shaking and wondering, like, what's next? And I think that's what a lot of people were doing for a while. And we're starting to kind of come out of our shells, and everyone's kind of finding a new flow. But I think it's really important to set in a routine that's going to make that new normal something you're excited about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I know that you're a busy bee. You've always been a busy bee. You buzz around here all the time doing all kinds of things. What are some things that you do that you can find balance from? So, working is great and being productive is great, but how do you find a balance with that?
Well, like I was just saying, it was a little overwhelming at first. I kind of felt like my art and the things that I was doing weren't necessarily what was needed in this time. It was kind of almost felt shameful. I was actually told by people, like, promoting the stuff I was during this time was kind of frowned upon in some areas. And I had to kind of sit back and meditate on that for a moment and really think about all the artists and musicians out there that are struggling, asking themselves, like, is what they're doing important? And I loved when Ashton talked earlier, and he said, like, right now more than ever, he should be out there inspiring and creating. And you should be, because what are people flocking to right now? They're flocking to things that are pretty to look at on the internet. They're flocking to music, and there's so many live streams, which I want to ask everybody what they feel like about the live streams here in a minute. And just, there's so much good content out there that we need to find a way to keep going and moving forward. And being the busy bee that I am, it was numbing at first to think like everything that I had been keeping myself busy with might not serve a purpose anymore. So that's like why I said I decided to change my focus a little bit. I'm still creating art every day. Like I said, I'm experimenting with art instead of doing production work. I started gardening. I switched my focus to things that brought me the most joy in the moment. And I see people struggling with the projects they had been working on for years. And for some people, it is now more than ever you should be creating. But for other people, you should be focusing on those things that you push to the side, like your novel, like people that haven't been able to do certain content. Like I know that Breezy had been wanting to edit video and stuff, but she had been doing other things. So now she has more time to edit video and focus on like photography and things that bring her more joy. And that's, I think, where we need to be right now, rather than stressing out. There's a musician that I listened to, and I think he quoted it from another musician, but I got it from Jason Mraz, and he was saying that musicians and artists that are putting in the work now are really going to show this time next year, because it often takes a year or more to really birth a project. So like you and your novel, CeeLo, or like Ashton in an album, or Nick in a program, or Breezy in a program. It takes months to really build that. So if we numb ourselves now, the world's going to be even more numb in 6 to 9 months. So right now, we really should be focusing on incubating whatever brings the most joy to the new normal in the new world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And that kind of leads us into another good question, and we'll go around to everyone for this. And what kind of world would we like to see come out of all of this? Anybody have thoughts?
Yeah, I would love to start it off, because I very much resonate with what Shannon was saying about new routine, and you can birth a new normal from that. Me personally, I wouldn't say I'm creating too much right now or outside exploring too much right now. I feel like I'm very much coming to a clear center point and coming to a very solid foundation of how I would like to go forward. So right now I'm working on doing new routine and basically everywhere in my life, my physical life, how I am inside my own mind or mental body. I'm very much becoming in tune with my emotions and triggers and my responses to those and how I thrive through those and just bringing a bunch of awareness to the different things within regarding that. And I'm feeling into my new normal, and the things that feel strange just beg my attention there. And just like Shannon said, taking action upon these things that are revealed and just being very innovative and stilling down ourselves and focusing forward.
Great, thank you. Breezy or Ashton?
Ladies first.
Do we still have Breezy with us? Huh, okay.
I know she's in a location with storms right
Yeah,
now.
sorry.
Okay, no, you're fine.
That was my bad. Thank you, Ashton. Thank you so much. And I want to take a very strong social justice stance on this. What kind of world would I like to see after this? Well, there is kind of collective grieving that we're all going through. We're all processing this differently. We're all processing this in various ways. And touching on that, that means that we're all thinking collectively at this time. This is something that is affecting all of us, you know, in terms of, there were certain times of my life when I wished that aliens would come to Earth because it would be a uniting force for humanity, right? So in many ways, this is an alien invader. It's invading our bodies, and it kind of does unify us. And I hope that in this new world, it creates an awareness of personal space. You know, we see a person and we acknowledge that they exist, that they're there, and we give them that space to go through life. And that flows right into people who experience homelessness, saying that hopefully we develop more social awareness about social programs and the effects that certain aspects of our capitalistic society has, and that hopefully we fix those. For example, sometimes art programs get cut, mental health programs get cut, food and housing programs don't get enough funding to meet the needs in their areas. When a situation like this happens, it really throws those inequalities and injustices in our face more than it would have if we were going about, you know, that old normal life. In this new world we're finding ourselves in, I'm hoping that we look at those holes and we fill them, that we begin to become more self-sustaining communities, that pockets, I believe that pockets of the United States will become more self-sustaining. People are going to start growing their own food, and people are going to start bartering. Gift culture is really going to take off. People, you know, in this, going back to how it takes a year to work on projects, I too am working on projects. I too am working on a craft that is functional, like a candle, but it's something that you can share, that you can barter, that you can use, that isn't currency, so to speak. So I think that out of this struggle will be like a beautiful field of flowers, right? Out of this, it's going to turn over and we're all going to bloom and blossom. And so I hope that in this new world that we do have this new awareness of personal space, of social justice, and of building self-sustaining communities.
Awesome. Ashton?
I love all those points so much. First reminds me of like the lotus flower. It's like emerges out of mud. It's like the story of the Buddha as well. You know, so much can come out of struggle and chaos. I've read so many stories about, not recently, but like older stories of people like losing their house, and in the moment of seeing their house burned down, they're like suddenly liberated from like the attachment to like material existence. And so much of our culture is so consumerist based and materialistic. I think this is really like a big collective pause, like forcing us into more stillness and like maybe potentially more awareness of our spirit than just like attachment to the physical. But more of what I wanted to say is along the lines of what Breezy was saying about social justice and social programs and like the way our economy is structured and all that. Like, as you can see over the last few weeks, millions of people, I'm saying like 10 to 30, I'm pretty sure 30 million people lost their employer insurance in the last month. So if anyone gets sick, they all of a sudden might have like up to $40,000 of medical debt that they're not sure that they can afford. So a lot of people don't even go to the doctor because they're just scared. So I'm a huge supporter of Medicare for all, especially the way like Bernie Sanders presents it. I think like insurance should not be tied to employment. We need housing for all. Like the homeless thing is insane. But we need to like restructure our economy and get away from fossil fuels. I'd really like to see sustainable energy. Things like universal basic income, you know, like 40% of Americans have less than $400 in the bank. Many much less than $400. So having to pay for even a test is like more than that. So let alone having to stock up for food for 2 weeks and all that. It's becoming clearer to me every day how our economy really is like catering towards the 1% and the 99% just, it's like playing musical chairs. Like something happens and we all get left out. So for me, I'd like to see a complete restructuring of the economy and like an embracing of sustainable technology more than anything else. Because if you think about like the way our society is ran, most of the things we pay for is housing, food, and transportation. And if energy is like close to zero for cost, then all of those main basic needs become way cheaper and affordable and or like potentially universally accessible. So I think sustainable technology is going to be the key to where we want to go.
Yeah, I really enjoy that. I know, Ashton, that you've checked into this, and there's a project called the Venus Project where Jack Fresco is a philosopher, and he created this way of living with technology and with, you know, it's run off of resources, not money or funds. So I feel like with a system like that, something like what's happening right now would be much more contained and much more taken care of, because our system is so messed up right now. It's just chaos. Nurses and doctors can't even get masks for this. Right. And so I want to encourage people to check out the Venus Project and maybe other sustainable ways of living. And I think that's really great. Does anybody know of any other things like the Venus Project?
There's this guy named Charles Einstein who created this thing called a gifting economy that Breezy kind of hinted on earlier, but I think that is like, well, he's one of my favorite economists and like thinkers out there, Charles Einstein. It's called like sacred economics.
Awesome. I really like that. I know in a book, The Celestine Prophecies, it talks about a spiritual economy. And, I think that's really a powerful thing, is to have a spiritual economy, because this stuff is ancient. It's been here forever. It's not going to go away anytime soon. And I think also it ties into everything that we do as a society. So everybody is seeing how fragile the system is, how unsustainable it is, and now is the perfect time to change all of that.
Definitely. I think the new world is important for us to be visualizing right now, rather than visualizing the world that we don't want to see. Again, like I said, people kept asking me that people like I do readings and stuff for, they were asking me like, when do I think this would be over? And I kept saying, I just keep visualizing the powers at large now slowly losing their power. Like Ashton said, a lot of the systems that are in place are breaking before our eyes. It's ridiculous how many loopholes and things people are finding to just shift the power right now. And even if the people in power are there, the population at large are going to continue to break the mold. They're going to be bartering and helping find ways to gather things beyond this, like Breezy said. And they can't keep families and groups of soul family apart forever. Before long, people are going to realize that making memories is more important than just keeping distance. Yes, the virus is scary. Yes, it's important to save the people that we can, but you also can't just stop life and expect people to just give up their entire existence forever and to just go digital. Like we all thrive off of love and connection. We're basically like big like plants, you know. We need attention and love and sunshine and water and interaction, and we like music, and we thrive off of that. And by shutting this off, we're not going to be able to survive. So I've been really focusing on making my outer world, like I said, right now, my property and gardening, and also my inner world, the soul work, going in and checking in with my energy so that I can make the changes I want to see in myself as well as in the new world. And I have been bartering with others and seeing a lot of different platforms of trade come up. But I think it's also important to be seeing how much more added ritual is coming into the world. There's so many people that are practicing different forms of ritual in their home, as well as like routines and things. But in the same sense, it's interesting. I have to note that it's interesting that this is all happening right now in the world, because personally, I'm kind of curious how the Easter holiday is going to go for a lot of different families. I'm in an area where that holiday is very big. A lot of families get together, and I'm in a small town where the virus itself hasn't spread a whole lot. But with this coming holiday being a time that people gather, I'm curious how that's going to affect people, if they're going to see a larger spread, or if they're going to realize how important it is to see family and friends. Because the other thing with that happening at this time in the new world, I think it's interesting because Easter is a celebration of the Christ coming back from the death. And right now, Christ consciousness is rebirthing itself. We're coming into this one visual of realizing that we are having to take control of our own existence. We have this connection to the higher power that is finding ways to provide for us and finding ways to break the systems that we've so often wanted. And we're getting the time, because so often people were like, man, I wish I had 2 weeks off work, and then they got it and they spazzed. So it's important. I don't know what to do. Yeah, it's important that we focus this time on those things that we kept saying, I wish I had time. I wish I had time. I kept seeing the meme at first, or the graphic, whatever you want to call it, that was like, if you don't come out of this with a new hobby or a new whatever, then you didn't lack time, you lack discipline. And then I saw the version of it where they cross that out and they say, we're all going through a traumatic experience. So yes, if you don't come out of this with some sort of new discipline or hobby or whatever, come out with a new sense of healing. Take that time to rest and heal and to figure out how you work on trauma. So as a collective, we can heal all of the trauma, allow Mother Earth to heal, and bring this new world in that we've so often been wanting. Like Breezy said earlier too, like we thought that there were going to be some sort of alien or extraterrestrial or something coming in to like save us, but I think we're realizing that we're our saviors. We have to make this change.
Hopefully when we do,
hot fiery truth.
Hopefully when we do, then, you know, we can have our otherworldly visitors finally be able to come in peace.
I hope so, because I've been wondering where they're at. Like, what's going on here? But again, I think that we are them. We just are waking up and remembering that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's going to be like, they're going to open the doors. We're like, oh, that's my cousin. We grew up in distant galaxies, but, you know, cousins.
Yeah, I find it really interesting with the talk about aliens, because, like, okay, so there's obviously things out there, and then a little closer to home, there are many different governments or civilizations over the planet. Then even closer to home, we have our peers and our groups that we are a part of. Then even closer to home, we have our immediate families. Maybe we live with them, maybe they're close anyways, and we have our very immediate. environment. I think that the more we are able to bring awareness toward our immediate environment and the ones around us and our relationships there, even including our own self and our own inner relationship. And even if someone comes out of this with a better inner relationship, that is tremendous. That is a huge success anyways, even if their outside world didn't change at all. That's a huge success. But I feel the more that we're able to slow down and communicate with the ones around us, we also can grow. And then from there, we can truly all come together, just like Breezy said, with a higher social awareness, boundary awareness. We can reveal to each other the priorities that we would like in the civilization, who has the power, and self-sustaining communities, and all the beauty that Ashton was bringing through that he gained and experienced from his travels, his journey, and how he has tapped into himself with the music. And Shannon, you're just on a rip right now. I'm honestly loving it. I like this full moon is crazy, and I read today that the pink moon is called pink because of this pink moss that it's named after. There's a name of it that I didn't write down, but yeah, it's just a beautiful controlled demolition all over. And with that global meditation, did you guys know that the Schumann resonance spiked tremendously?
Right.
Wow.
I felt that.
I felt it too. It's interesting. Like the Easter thing is sticking in my mind. I feel like we're in this forced isolation, like a global forced isolation where, people aren't going to be able to gather and they're going to be forced to go inward and realize maybe.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm personally not anti-religion, so I don't mean to come off in the wrong way, and I support and respect all the religions, but I feel like maybe this is showing us like God is all around you and within you, and you don't have to find it on a church only on Sunday. Maybe it's every moment we are connected, and we don't need specific, I don't know, maybe we just don't need specific solo religions. We can have like a full humanity squad rolling up everywhere instead.
Some type of administration dictating what is high and holy and what is not.
Yeah, and like who gets into the afterlife or not.
You pay me your money though and you're in.
There is one interesting subject that's like political with the churches. Like the government of the United States just like 11 states deem them essential businesses, and they're like paying the church CEOs to stay afloat when they're like not paying people. So I think it's interesting how this virus has like brought light to a lot of things that are, I think, out of alignment with the collective, and like shown how like maybe the governments really don't care about the people. Yeah.
Man, I could go on to that one for a while, but I wanted to say something real quick on something one of you guys said about the distance apart is changing people, and I think that's something that the universe is kind of forcing, because it's changing. Right. It's changing Mother Nature on the outside, but I think what it's doing too is like as we separate and we find that higher self and we reprogram ourselves, we are giving each other the distance to allow each other to change. When there's so much busyness all the time, you see the same coworkers every day, you see your same family all the time. The only people that we're supposed to be allowed to see right now are the people in our inner home. So even CeeLo and I, we've seen major upgrades in ourselves in these last couple weeks. But making it distance ourselves from other humans, like the next time I see you guys, you're going to be like superhumans. Not that you already weren't, but like the amount of growth everybody is going through. And Ashton, I have a question for you, because you're one of the only people I know right now that's kind of like by themselves through this isolation. Like I have CeeLo, I think Nick's got roommates, Breezy's got roommates. Ashton, what's it like to be isolated by yourself right now as a creator?
I keep seeing this quote that's like, you've been isolated when a global pandemic happens and you make almost zero life changes. Moving to a new state has been like, okay, I'll hang out with someone once a month, or like working. I just like work all the time. So it has been a total shift in my like social life moving out here. And like just before all of this was happening, I was really starting to get like my core friend group. And I mean, I guess to like more clearly answer the question is like, it's mainly the best thing ever. But there are definitely moments because like all of like every restaurant, you know, is shut down. It's like I have to do, not only do I have to like cook every single meal and like clean everything all by myself, but like now I have like no, like I used to be able to like when I was super tired after work, like, you know, order food. But now it's all me, baby. So
Do you find it peaceful? Do you find it like lonely? I'm sure you go through ups and downs with all of it.
Mainly it's really reassuring because my bubble is like unbursted and I don't feel like I'm going to get sick. But it's going on like almost a month now. And I'm like, yeah, I like miss people for sure.
Missing the
I'm like, dang, I really maybe could find a dope roommate in the future that can like help just like balance like inside house tasks.
Yeah.
I'm like a house cat, so I don't mind. But with the whole world shut down is definitely intense.
I think we're all gonna, once this is all over and we can come back out and hang out, I think you know, like when you go away for a while from your friends or your family and you're like, wow, I actually really miss them, and you come back together and you're like, dang, I really miss these people. So
Right?
it'll just be like, I don't know, probably like the best party ever.
I miss my people.
For real.
And
Okay.
I feel the more, just a very brief point, I feel the more that we grow connected with ourselves and we establish a more sensitive body, we see others so much more deeply. And I feel even what's occurring now is we're going to get a deeper sense of presence and stillness.
Yeah.
And opinions even, or views of things, or we're going to learn about our own self more, or remember more that we cared about in the past or something. And now as we go forth, we're basically even more of a person. We have more things to talk about. We have more questions to ask, more things to share, or even just a genuine, deeper interest or curiosity, at least in my case.
Totally.
Definitely. So I would like to go over to the chat room real quick. We had somebody post a comment/question, and they say the system has cracked, allowing space for our light to shine. The time to show the whole world a lighter way has never been more opportune. But what will it take from souls like us to ensure that we can actually implement the long-term positive changes that this pause has created for us? So I want to throw it over to Breezy real quick because we haven't heard from her. What are your thoughts on that, Breezy?
Well, lots of ways to answer that question. Definitely, what would it take for souls like us to really make and keep that change? I would say a personal commitment to yourself, you know, saying like, I'm going to commit to making this change. And also the next step is to commit to inspiring others to commit to that change, which sounds simple, but it is complicated, and it does take like tenacity and courage and patience, especially patience. I think that it would take a lot of communication between all of us to, you know, lift each other up, to listen to each other's ideas, to listen to each other's solutions, in order to maintain a change and in order to really experience that change. I think that one big key would be to focus, and going back to what Shannon was saying, you know, building a routine at this time and practicing that routine. And, you know, like they say, you practice a routine for 30 days and it becomes a habit. You know, you really hardwire all of those motions into your neural network. And so I think that in order for us to really commit, it would take that routine, that practice, and that commitment, and to ourselves, to others, and to the universe at large.
Awesome. Thank you. I know I've created a little routine that I get to stretch, and I'll go and like stand on the ground for a few seconds. And if I didn't have that right now, I don't know. I definitely wouldn't be as inspired to do roundtables.
I think it helps keep you grounded and focused for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so Ashton, do you have any thoughts on that? What will it take from people like us to ensure that we can implement all these changes for the long term?
I'm having like two answers pop up in my brain. On like a micro level, I feel like finding the things that break your heart and inspire you at the same time, and letting that like become part of your mission here to like help and spread the word about, like finding your passion and what really aches you about the world as well, and balancing those two. On a micro scale, I think is going to be like a way to immediately implement in your community the types of things we're talking about. On a macro, bigger scale, I think we need like nothing short of a political revolution and systematic change that like we haven't seen in 100 or 1,000 years. Like until we have healthcare for everyone, like a living wage for people, and like rent control, I think we're like any sort of crisis will do the same sort of thing where there's suddenly like 30 million unemployed people, or if there's going to be more, like they're talking about like 30%. And that's just in America. Like the things I've heard in other countries, like at least we have progressive senators to push for like a $1,200 check or whatever. Like other countries are just their poor people are being utterly squashed by this whole thing, and the government has no sense of compassion for them. So I think it's going to take like global systematic, not only political but economic changes to like the control structure. And to me, that like is sustainable technology. I think the Green New Deal is the number one thing that we need. Get us to 100% renewable energy by 2030. That's like our number one goal. As well as, like I said, Medicare for all and maybe universal basic income. I think there's a lot of things we can do, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like those things right there that you mentioned, for what we're trying to do, could be considered small steps.
Yeah.
And I think those would be like great steps to take. So if we could all maybe collect, like you were saying, how the collective meditation kind of shifted the scale, or the Schumann resonance, maybe if enough people focused on that and pictured it in their minds, and it would help those to be implemented in this timeline.
100%.
I'm honestly surprised that there hasn't been more of a revolution. When this all first started happening and they started telling us we had to stay in place and all these different things, I thought for sure there was going to be some sort of like riot or revolution, and like the people were going to finally speak up and be like, what is happening? And it's so interesting because I think that everybody was waiting on a different group to do it. Like, oh, I thought this group had it. Oh, I thought this group was going to do it. Oh, I thought. And the same thing with the government's like, oh, why wasn't there like some sort of structure in place for a world pandemic? Oh, I thought this country had it. Oh, maybe this one had it. Like,
what's hilarious is that the one person that's came forward calling for like general strikes and like redistribution of wealth is Britney Spears. Her Instagram, I'm not kidding, her Instagram is blowing up because she's like,
I know.
Like,
she's somebody who's processed trauma and she has come out of it apparently. So like, it just shows how it's the people you don't expect. The people you don't expect are standing up for our rights as humans. It's so wild.
I did not know that.
I did want to touch on another thing on the question that was asked. That was a great sidetrack. I loved it. But the question that was asked, like, how do we continue to thrive after this, basically?
Yeah, how we can implement the long-term changes.
What is your goal for quarantine? That might sound like a weird question, but like, what is your goal coming out of this? For some people, it might be to love their family more, to be appreciative more. Some people, it might be to finish that novel. For me, it's to be more self-sustaining. So for me, I'm focusing, like I said, on gardening and things like, what is it that you want to see come out of this, and set that goal, micro and macro it, like we've all discussed in these previous answers here, and really take action towards it. Because if you're just sitting here contemplating, like, how can I benefit from this? Well, take action. Set your mission. Visualize it.
It's time.
It's time. Shine time.
And if it's not clear for any of us, then we can do certain things to get ourselves moving, where we can use our release muscle or relax muscle and free our mind. Maybe we can increase our vibration or calm down our nervous system or access a higher state of consciousness or whatever it is for you. And we can do these walks, eating well, meditations, journaling, etc. And we can then get that inspiration and that guidance from within, where it is there that we can then find out what comes next for us.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I know Deepak Chopra was talking about all of this stuff going on in the world, and he was talking about how personal hygiene is really important, especially right now, but also mental hygiene. So we keep talking about meditation, and I think that's awesome. So meditation is huge for mental hygiene and emotional as well. So I have one more question that I'll ask everybody and give you all time, and then we'll do our closing statements. And my last question is, what's been the hardest part of living right now during the quarantine and social distancing? And maybe what's been the best part? We'll start with Breezy.
What I would say, the best part, that's what we're going with first?
The hardest part and the best part. Either one or both.
Like the glows and the grows. So how am I glowing during this quarantine, right? What am I finding the best parts in? Well, I gave myself a spa day, so that was one thing. Just like Ashton said, I did feel like this push and pull to be productive right away, but I did give myself that time off. And so I relaxed. I took some time to rewire my brain and allow myself to get out of the working 9-to-5 structure and to let myself choose to do P90X, for example. That's a new thing that I've picked up. So, right, I'm only doing it 30 minutes a day. Like, I'm not super like, but it's just like that small step of, learning to improve myself and making time for things that I've wanted to do. Now, the grows aspect, or like the things that I find the hardest, is definitely the social isolation. I'm here with my partner, Jesse, and we also have a roommate on the property that we live on. And so there's like a few of us here, but we are practicing social distance, and we're minimizing our contact. And also the fact that I'm here in Michigan, and my parents are on the east side of the state, which right now is a hot spot. And they are in Livonia, which is the second most affected city in the Detroit area. So I'm struggling with the fact that there are people out there who are suffering. I can't go visit my parents. There are certain risk factors involved there. And they don't want me visiting them either, because they're afraid as well of getting sick. So that, I say, would be a grow, as I'm grieving the loss of social contact, loss of normalcy, the ability to, I teach workshops, right? The ability to meet with groups of people and share ideas. So I'm mourning all of that. Mm-hmm. And I think that would be the hardest part. But we're going to focus on the glows, right? Picking things that inspire us and using that to help us process our grief.
Definitely. And I want to take a moment to send out prayers for, all the people who are maybe more affected than others, because some people are like, well, it hasn't changed a whole lot for me, but there are people like you, Breezy, with parents, and my grandma in Florida, and all these people. I want to take a moment of silence real quick just to hold some protection for everybody. Beautiful. Okay, let's go over to Ashton.
All right. I guess I'll start with the hardest, I guess being isolated, but having my family very similar to what Breezy's talking about, like on the east side of Michigan, where it's like my sister's in Detroit and my mom is near Flint and grandma and uncle are near Flint. And I just like saw some random friend posting about the hospital that's closest to my mom's house being completely overrun. And like my grandma is going through chemo literally right now. And like my mom had some symptoms 2 weeks ago. I didn't even post about it online, but I like was her doctor for like 4 days in a row. Like it was so scary. I don't think I even told anybody, maybe one person or two, but that's been really intense. And I think like kind of like seeing the government do nothing's been really hard too. Just kind of like watching the election crash and burn, like I was looking at my own Facebook feed, and like literally just about 1 month ago, Bernie Sanders had won 3 states, was in the lead, and the whole momentum of the country was shifting. And now it's like completely different. So that's been hard to deal with. Not that I think he can't still win, to be honest. But that's probably been the hardest things. And then the best part has been like just the extra time to heal and focus on music again as much as I always wanted to. And I've been able to finish more songs and like put out a 6-hour-long clouds meditation that I've been wanting to do for a year. And really being able to like tune into my body, I think has been really healing.
Yeah, wonderful. Did you have anything else?
Yeah, I guess, it's like there's a lot of people out there who they don't even have the potential to have self-care. There's homeless people, and there's all these people in like impoverished areas in third world countries that are going through it the worst. So I'm just sending my heart out to all those people.
Mm-hmm, definitely. We join you with that. And, again, just wishing everybody out there, safety and protection and a whole lot of healing. And especially your mom and your family. Definitely. Nick, thoughts, comments on this?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with the grows and glows. I really like that a lot. The first things that were, it was funny because before any pandemic or news media coverage of what was going on, I actually got severely ill for the first time in over 4 years. And I was completely bedridden, and I had all of these symptoms. Now, no one around me ever got sick since then. This was 2 months ago or a month and a half or something. And it was a spiritual experience for me. I was completely bedridden. My body was horrible. I couldn't even think straight or focus on anything. And I was coughing my brains out. It was crazy. And I had a very deep spiritual experience where my entire perception of everything changed, and I just got very humbled and humiliated, and my heart broken open, and my life changed. And then before I could even get a grip on who I was and get myself established in any of my routines or habits or whatever, this quarantine starts to happen, and my growing continued. I further confronted so much of my darkness and different ways I was not grounded or centered to handle any emotional triggers. And I just went through a very, very deep and intense time where I learned a lot about the power of patience. I learned a lot of humility through forgiveness and acceptance, and I gained a very deep, deep exploration of my emotional bank account and what that even means. And even still, this is why I'm in a clearing place and a grounding place, because I still don't really know how I want to go forward. So in my grows or my dark points, I actually had to come to acceptance that the world was changing, that people were changing, and how other people wanted to live their life was changing. I had to accept that. I wasn't very accepting at first about social distancing and things like this. I wasn't very accepting about people's ideas. I wasn't accepting about people's fears, and I was kind of being quite insensitive. But also, I was coming from an innocent place. I just wasn't seeing deeply enough, and I was being a little immature, I feel. But focusing on fun and freedom is where I was coming from at that point. And then it got to a place where I was just being insensitive and disrespectful. So a lot had changed for me in that regard, and how I dealt with others changing and respecting other people's boundaries that allowed me to get some experience and even knowing of my own boundaries, and diving deeper, learning about myself and how to relate better with myself to be much more accountable and respectful and present to others. And, it's very eye-opening for me. It's kind of mind-blowing as well. I'm just trying to assimilate myself, and what I have been glowing from is it's bringing a lightness to myself, and I'm now very much inspired and motivated to journal every day. I'm very much now motivated, inspired to, when I wake up with a smile and gratitude, affirmations. I really like to meditate or use binaural beats and set myself up for success in the morning, where my body feels good, my mind feels clear, calm, and connected, my emotions are balanced, and I am committed and aware of how I want to feel and how I would like to feel, what I will do when I feel differently, and bring an awareness there. And then having my day however it goes, trying to get some exercise, trying to get the heart rate going, healthy, clean foods, basics, hydration. Then at night, I also return to my journaling that I'm super inspired to connect with. I feel very passionate and purposeful to connect with this deep level that's now feeling very fluent, to be honest. So I finish my day off with connecting myself there again. And before I even go into my bed, I like to meditate, think about the day deeply or briefly, whatever I'm feeling, and kind of finish the day there, meet myself with where I'm at, tap into the next day, and then just kind of go to bed feeling clean and clear without stress, because this whole experience of what we are been experiencing over the past couple months has shown me that I am a very highly stressed person, that I did not know this. I actually now have anxiety all over my life. I did not even know this or acknowledge this, so now I am. And with the awareness that's been birthed through all of this, I now can take action to help myself, whereas before maybe I wasn't seeing certain things, so I didn't know what actions to take. So I've just been revamping everything, and I guess a moral of my story is, let's all take a notion to be more patient, breathe more often, and if things are getting too intense for us, we can take a breath and acknowledge that things are intense, and we can start there with our honesty. Honesty has been a great tool that I have been learning again with my own self and with people outside of me, to just whenever a wave is coming, we can either run off the shore and go jump into the wave and surf it, or maybe we fall off. Sometimes we can stay on the shore, but also sometimes we find ourselves waking up in the wave, and that's okay too. Let us all just, with all of the silence and love we're sharing with everyone outside of ourselves, let us also know and acknowledge that it is us going forth that is even the one that desires to give love to someone else. And I feel that is because the work we've done on ourself through our glows and grows, where we are even coming together today on this beautiful round table to share the love. So I'm just very thankful for you all. Each one of you has inspired me in very deep ways for multiple years now. And I just want to say that what a lovely opportunity this evening to connect. And I'm sure that our audience today and in the future will definitely very much feel us deeply. And this is a very impactful message we're sharing. So thank you.
Thank you. Let's do Shannon.
My glows and grows.
Glows and grows.
Well, first of all, Nick, everything you just said just resonated so deeply. I'm going to start with my grows because I too realized how much anxiety I actually have compared to what I thought I've worked on. And I, being somebody who has processed a lot of grief and trauma and come up with tools and methods and courses on that, at first it felt shameful to be like, wow, I'm not sure I'm handling all of this stress as well as I should be. And
or at all.
Right. It's like I had to go back and I started my own like chakra course process and like listen to myself, kind of like heal myself, which kind of felt weird at first. But I was like, hey, sometimes we teach the things that we need to know the most. So I did my own work again and been like working through that while I'm working in my studio and stuff like that. But I think one of the biggest, I guess, I don't know if this is a grow, but like the biggest thing that's been hard for me is the sense of fear that I feel as somebody who's super sensitive to other people's feelings. Like when I have to go out for essentials now, I feel like I'm constantly explaining myself like, yes, humans, I'm out here for something essential. Don't judge me or something like that. And it's like everybody's eyes piercing me, literally like feels like it's piercing my soul. So it's just this like constant sense of anxiety if I have to go out and do something. So that has been a hard grow for me, is to remind myself that we're all in this. We're not necessarily judging each other. It's that the collective is kind of scared. And I bounce back and forth through that insensitivity too, where I'm like, well, maybe this isn't for a reason. Maybe this is just a control thing. And maybe I should just be like exercising my freedom. And then I'm like, no, I want to care about other people. I don't want to seem insensitive. Do you wear a mask? Do you not wear? There's like all these questions with that part of it. So the isolation part itself, I'll find myself really inspired at one moment. And then all of a sudden there's just this heavy sense of like sadness. Like I'll think about something that I'm now grieving or mourning, and I'm just like, wow, I really miss dancing with a whole group of people to my friend's music. Or, oh man, I really miss seeing my family who I could have seen so often, because unlike you guys, my family lives right up the road, but we're usually so busy with life that we don't actually see each other. And now I want to see them. And even if we get frustrated at each other, and it's like the memories right now are really important. So part of my growing has been, the exciting part has been not having so much on my schedule personally. I've been somebody whose schedule has been off the charts since I met CeeLo 5 years ago. Like we're always hosting or doing something or running around doing something for someone. And it was exhausting. And I have to say, maybe I was one of those people that felt like I accidentally manifested it. Like, I just want 2 weeks to do nothing. And then it happened. And I was like, oh, okay. Now what? And I had to process that. And the growing has been exciting in ways that, like I said, I've been inspired to focus on projects I wouldn't have normally, because people don't have an expectation of me. And if they do, it's a little different than their normal expectation of me. To meet with clients and to show up in a certain way. And right now I'm showing people how I'm handling it, whether some days that's good, some days I'm on edge, but it's showing people that we're all processing. Even the people that everyone assumes has things together, they're processing it too, because no one expected this. And something I wanted to touch on, just because it's kind of related to this topic, CeeLo, earlier you mentioned like hygiene and how that's important. People ask me sometimes how I get inspired, and some of my friends will send me like Snapchats like, I've been in the same like leggings or something for 2 or 3 days. I haven't brushed my hair or whatever. And I'm like, well, even though if I don't go see people, I'll still try to curl my hair, or I'll still make sure I put like, I have clothes that are like artsy clothes, but they still make me feel confident that I know.
Yeah, that's been huge for me too.
Yeah, like even if no one's going to see you that day, you want to feel confident.
All right, I'm going to shower and dress up and then go to work.
Exactly. Sometimes I'm like, should I get a shower and then paint? I'm going to be covered in paint. Yeah, because you're cleansing your body. You actually mentioned that earlier. I think it was you, Ashton. One of maybe multiple. How it's important that if you're feeling weighed down, hop in the shower. If you're somebody who's privileged, I'll admit that's a very privileged statement. Just hop in the shower whenever you want. But if you're somebody who has a home and your privilege is that you have time to worry, instead of worry, cleanse yourself. That's been something that's been super big for me, is just hop in the shower, recharge your day, curl my hair, put my cute clothes on, and like go do something. I don't want to be in the same clothes I've been in for days. I don't want to feel like I have nowhere to go, because then I feel like there's nothing to do. So my grow has been to focus on my self-care, and to appreciate people, because as much as I had wanted some self-time, I really miss my people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a book called Big Magic that I find really inspirational. It talks a lot about creativity and inspiration, and it says, and she talks about in there, like if you want to bring out the best of your creative flow, of the creative energy, then dress up and act like you're going out on a date, or you're taking creativity out on a date, and just feeling good, looking good, you're going to perform good. So I think that's great, and I'm glad you touched on that.
I think it's important because it's so easy. It's part of that routine that I mentioned. It's so easy to just say, oh, I don't have anything to do today, I'm just going to stay in bed till 3 or 4 and not put any effort into it. But you're still living. You're still a spiritual being having a human experience. Yeah, we might feel like Harry Potter right now with Umbridge in charge and all the rules and all the things are happening, but it's important to still exercise that freedom and that self-expression, because if not, that'll get blocked and you'll feel just hopeless real quick.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's okay to sleep until 3, but
Definitely.
And if you do it and it becomes a routine, then that's if you're on like a different kind of shift, then I think I personally find more inspiration when I get up early in the morning. So
I mean, in some days I will be lazy and I'll wear like sweatpants or something all day. I'm just saying, if you're trying to get inspired and you haven't, then maybe that's a thing.
Well, people like I'm sure Nick knows about this. People who work out a lot and bodybuilders and fitness people, they have a diet that they stick to, but then they have a cheat day where they could go get some pizza or whatever, but it's only one day out of the week. So I think that's okay.
Ooh, can I make one more pro comment?
Yeah.
I think it's been inspiring to see how many people I see cooking again, like in learning new things and eating healthier. Like I've seen so many people like, oh, I learned a new recipe, or oh, what do I use this like fruit for I've never tried, because there was produce and not frozen food. Because I touched on that last week. I think it's so interesting how like all the healthy food is still stocked while all the like what I don't anyway, but it is inspiring to see how many people are cooking. Like Ashton, you said you've been cooking like every day. That I love hearing that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. We're learning real fast how to sustain ourselves. Okay, so real quick, my grow has been just with all the energy going around with the world. Sometimes I'll sit there and I'll just get a wave of anxiety and panic, and I got to work through it. So it's been harder for me to be inspired and motivated to do my work. But I've been working at it. My glow has been like you said, we've been able to settle down for a while, because it seems like ever since my adventure in 2011 creating stuff, I have been going nonstop, and always events, always stuff going on, and just being able to stay home for a while has been really nice. I would say that I'm very introverted when I'm naturally an introverted, so it takes a lot for me to get out there and be social and stuff like that. So getting to relax and just enjoy this kind of solitude. Also, I will say we are a little privileged being in the Appalachian Mountains, and it's literally right in front of the house, so we don't have to go far. And I'm just really grateful for that. Hopefully everybody can find something to be grateful for in these times, because gratitude can help you transcend a lot of negativity, a lot of fear, anxiety, and things like that. So we'll go ahead, we'll do the closing statements, and then we'll wrap this podcast up. And so, speakers, feel free to throw out any shameless plugs, links, shout-outs, anything you want to end the discussion. Breezy?
Oh, you humans are the best. Thank you so much for just everything that everyone has shared this evening. Like, it was great to reconnect with Nick and to reconnect with Ashton. And it's always a joy to hang out with you and Shannon. So I really appreciate being able to reconnect with you and hear how all of you are doing so well. And at the same time, I really appreciate the opportunity to share how we are all doing with the larger world at large. And so I want to continue sharing. And if any high vibe human out there is interested, you can visit my website, goldengaian.com, or my YouTube channel, youtube.com/pearlsangel. I am a health and wellness mental health practitioner, and I facilitate empowerment workshops, one-on-one coaching sessions, and angel card readings. You can visit my Patreon page and choose like a support package that works for you. And we can definitely connect and learn, share, and grow together. So one takeaway that I hope anyone who's listening has taken away from this is to continue to do what inspires you, and to stay healthy and stay light and not give up the fight.
Beautiful. Thank you, Breezy. We'll go over to Shannon now.
All right. Well, I hope that you guys take away from this that it's okay to take a break and do your self-work. But if there's something you've been really wanting to do with your life, if you have the time, now is the time to really focus on that. If you're an essential person, you don't have the time, then I hope that you are receiving the honor that you deserve. I don't know if that's something we should have touched on more, but if you guys don't have this time, you're not in isolation. I hope that you feel honored and respected and are getting the care and support you need. And if not, people will really see how important you are. As far as my shameless plugs, you can find me at Shantastic Shine or shannonshine.com. I'm doing personal readings and kind of check-ins right now on various sliding scales, including just kind of like weekly readings, checking in with your energy. And I make jewelry and all that fun stuff. Again, you can find that at shannonshine.com. And I would love to see more people just connecting in the Bring Me to Life community. On Facebook, you can just look up Bring Me to Life community with the number 2. I would love to hear questions or see articles that are inspiring you guys to stay awake and shine on, and just support the network in any way. We're accepting like articles. We're looking for topics to discuss on roundtables. If you are listening to this and you enjoyed it, again, we would love your feedback. Share it with a friend. We also have a Patreon and donation option. The Patreon, we're working on building that with some of this time. And yeah, you guys are just awesome. Thanks for being here, people that are talking and those that are listening. Stay awake, shine on.
Thank you, Shannon. Ashton?
Um, Man, yeah, thank you so much for all of you for coming together and sharing your point of view and getting all vulnerable. I think a lot of people need to hear, just some people talking about what they're going through. And if you want to find me, my music's called Spaceship Earth. You can find me on SoundCloud, Spotify, all of that, or you can go to spaceshipearthofficial.com. And all my music up is free or donation download. And just want to send my shout out to all of you as well.
Awesome. Thank you for being here, Ashton.
Totally.
Nick.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to be here. And it's funny, just to tap in what Breezy said earlier, there's good stress and bad stress. I think there's also good nervousness and bad nervousness. It's like when we're not prepared or something for whatever, and it's a big thing, we might get really nervous and our brain might shut down. But with things like this, I get just like good nervous. And man, I just want to say I appreciate all of you here and sharing what we're sharing with the round table. I just want to say that cycles come and go, and we change with our daily practices. As those change, we also change. There's highs and lows, and we just got to come into that as an acceptance and plan it out for ourselves. We answer to ourselves only, so it's only us that chooses what's best. And we can let our body lead the way. So what we're feeling in a particular day can really assist us, like what CeeLo was saying about when Ashton was talking production or being productive versus being inspired. Listening to our body, we could be inspired in a whole different way than trying to be productive. But I just really wanted to appreciate Breezy for what she was saying regarding social awareness and boundary awareness. I was really getting a lot of resonance with that, and it's like a great question to ask is, where is the power? And we can use our skills as currency. And when Shannon was talking, I was feeling very empathetic and really opening up and feeling deeply just about, like, in a family way, and also looking at ourselves as a system where we have our chakras that we can tune into, and checking in with others and finding a way to keep moving forward, being innovative and staying focused. And let's see if I had anything else. Oh, and I don't know if anyone said anything about the full moon, but I guess I'll just take this time to say that this... Oh, Shannon did say that this full moon in Libra is symbolizing rebirth. Mm-hmm. I've been feeling catalyzed to go cleaning and making room for things. I've cleaned out my closet and a couple drawers, and just opening space for the blessings and the new habits or anything that's coming, just opening space, moving our minds toward healthy relationships, internal and external, healthy habits, helpful, enjoyable skills, feeling creative in whichever ways, not even having to do artwork or anything, but being creative of our relationship with ourself, being creative with life and death, letting go of patterns, connections, beliefs that don't serve where we're trying to go. And then once we find that, taking action toward those patterns that synergize us with harmony and peace and clarity. And what we're going through now is just another phase of life. It's like a collective dark night of the soul, and we can seek the seat of our soul, if you will, to tap into those inner realms and bring out that personal power and reclaim our own self, or reclaim parts of ourself that we may have shamed or put away, and be compromising with ourself and the world, coming into a deep understanding to be ourself, because we each individually have our own individual impact, and we can become very powerful through our consistent action and self-work. And even look at this, there's only just a few of us here on this stream, but I don't know about you guys, I can only imagine, but I'm feeling very powerful just being with you guys, even though we are just quote unquote on here recording our voice and stuff like that. So just want to take a moment to do a deep electric bow and I'm in deep gratitude. Thank you.
Beautiful. Appreciate you, Nick. Thanks for being here. Okay, so before we end, I would like to do another moment of silence for everybody out there listening and just in general. Just a moment of silence to pray for this world. Maybe visualize what you would like to see happen.
And feel it. Put emotion into it.
Okay, beautiful. Thanks everybody for being here, and yeah, that's all I really have for right now. Until next time, have a great day, and namaste.
Peace.
For many of us, spirituality is just the quest to find essence or true meaning and to really just connect with a higher consciousness.
Connecting with your spirituality is very important in this life. By becoming mindful of all of that, you can realize where you are and if that is leading you to where you want to go.
Listen to the little simple things, because it's those little simple things that are going to shift you vibrationally in such a way that will prepare you to become very intuitively minded and ready to step forward on the next part of your path.
I hope you can feel the love that's inside you, it's inside me, that connects us.
Thanks for shining on with us.